The doctor was addressing a meeting about healthy eating. The material we put into our stomachs is enough to have killed most of us sitting here years ago. Red meat is awful. Soft drinks corrode the stomach lining. Some Asian foods contain high levels of MSG. High-fat diets are harmful, and long-term damage is caused by the germs in our drinking water. But there is one thing that is the most dangerous, and most of us have or will eat it. Can anyone tell me what food is it that causes the most grief and suffering for years after eating it? After a short pause, an elderly man in the front row put up his hand and softly said, "Wedding cake." A man is waiting for his wife to give birth. The doctor comes in and informs the dad that his son was born without a torso, arms, or legs. The son is just a head, but the dad loves his son and raises him as well as he can, with love and compassion. After 18 years, the son is now old enough for his first drink. Dad takes him to the bar, tearfully tells the son he is proud of him, and orders up the biggest, strongest drink for his boy. With all the bar patrons looking on curiously, and the bartender shaking his head in disbelief, the boy takes his first sip of alcohol. Swoosh! Plop! A torso pops out. The bar is dead silent, then bursts into whoops of joy. The father, shocked, begs his son to drink again. The patrons chant, "Take another drink." The bartender continues to shake his head in dismay. Swoosh! Plip! Plop! 2 arms pop out. The bar goes wild. The father, crying and wailing, begs his son to drink again. The patrons chant, "Take another drink! Take another drink!" The bartender ignores the whole affair and goes back to polishing glasses, shaking his head, clearly unimpressed by the amazing scenes. By now, the boy is getting tipsy, but with his new hands he reaches down, grabs his drink, and guzzles the last of it. Plop! Plip! 2 legs pop out. The bar is in chaos. The father falls to his knees and tearfully thanks God. The boy stands up on his new legs and stumbles to the left, then staggers to the right through the front door into the street, where a truck runs over him and kills him instantly. The bar falls silent. The father moans in grief. The bartender sighs and says, "He should have quit while he was ahead." 2 archaeologists were exploring a remote mountainous region when they came upon a huge rocky mass that resembled the statue of a sitting man. It was about 100 meters high and appeared to have accurate details right down to fingernails. "Looks real enough to talk to?" said the first archaeologist, jokingly. "Let's try," said the second, and turning to the statue said, "What's your name?" There was no reply, so he tried with, "How old are you?" Still no reply, so the second one asks, "What's the square root of 64?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then there was a loud rumbling, the ground started shaking, and slowly the statue rose to its feet. Towering above the men, it put one hand on its chin, gazed into the distance for a few seconds, and then said, "8. "Uh-huh," said the first archaeologist. "It only stands to reason." A man has spent the evening in his local, and seriously under the influence, sets off home. He decides to take a shortcut through the graveyard, and stumbling along, falls into an open grave dug for a funeral the next day. He tries to get out, but it's been raining heavily and the sides are too slippery to climb, so after several attempts he decides to wait until morning and sits down in the corner. Shortly after, another drunk comes stumbling through the graveyard and he falls into the grave. He's trying, unsuccessfully, to climb out when a hand falls on his shoulder and a voice says in his ear, "You'll never get out." But he did. An elderly Florida lady did her shopping and upon returning to her car found 4 males in the act of leaving with her vehicle. She dropped her shopping bags and drew her handgun, proceeding to scream at the top of her lungs. "I have a gun, and I know how to use it! Get out of the car!" The 4 men didn't wait for a second threat. They got out and ran like mad. The lady, somewhat shaken, then proceeded to load her shopping bags into the back of the car and got into the driver's seat. She was so shaken that she could not get her key into the ignition. She tried and tried, and then she realized why. It was for the same reason she had wondered why there was a football, a frisbee, and 2 12-packs of beer in the front seat. A few minutes later, she found her own car parked 4 or 5 spaces farther down. She loaded her bags into the car and drove to the police station to report her mistake. The sergeant to whom she told the story couldn't stop laughing. He pointed to the other end of the counter, where 4 pale men were reporting a carjacking by a mad, elderly woman described as white, less than 5 feet tall, wearing glasses, with curly white hair, and carrying a large handgun. No charges were filed. A man walks into a bar and asks the bartender, "If I show you a really good trick, will you give me a free drink?" The bartender considers it, then agrees. The man reaches into his pocket and pulls out a tiny rat. He reaches into his other pocket and pulls out a tiny piano. The rat stretches, cracks his knuckles, and proceeds to play the blues. The bartender pours the man a drink on the house, and he puts the rat and piano away. After the man finished his drink, he asked the bartender, "If I show you an even better trick, will you give me free drinks for the rest of the evening?" The bartender agrees, thinking that no trick could possibly be better than the first. The man reaches into his pockets again and pulls out the tiny rat and tiny piano. The rat stretches, cracks his knuckles, and proceeds to play the blues. The man reaches into a third pocket and pulls out a small bullfrog, who begins to sing along with the rat's music. While the man is enjoying his beverages, a stranger confronts him and offers him $10,000 for the bullfrog. "Sorry," the man replies, "he's not for sale." The stranger increases the offer to $25,000 cash up front. "No," he insists, "he's not for sale." The stranger again increases the offer, this time to $50,000 cash. The man finally agrees and turns the frog over to the stranger in exchange for the money. "Are you insane?" the bartender demanded. "That frog could have been worth millions to you, and you let him go for a mere $50,000. "Don't worry about it," the man answered. "The frog was nothing special. You see, the rat's a ventriloquist." A blonde woman wants to prove she is smart, so she goes down to the local police station and says that she wants to become a detective. The police chief decides to humor her and asks her, "Okay, can you tell me what 1 and 1 is?" 11, she replies. The chief thinks a moment and says, "That's not what I wanted, but I guess that's technically correct." Second question, "What 2 days of the week begin with the letter T?" he asks. "Today and tomorrow," the blonde answers. The chief is again surprised that the blonde has supplied an answer that's not entirely wrong. "Now listen carefully. Who killed Abraham Lincoln?" he asks her. The blonde looks a little surprised. She thinks really hard for a minute and finally admits, "I don't know." "Well, why don't you go home and work on that one for a while?" So the blonde wanders over to the beauty parlor, where her pals are waiting to hear the results of the interview. The blonde was exultant. "The interview went great," she says. "First day on the job, and I'm already working on a murder case." A circus ringleader and his wife were living with their main act, an alcoholic chimpanzee. The chimpanzee would always do the same thing every day. Find the liquor cabinet, drink a few bottles, screech and destroy things for a few hours, and then pass out in a random spot for the rest of the day. The wife could not stand the chimp, but the ringmaster did not have enough money to find a home for the chimpanzee or the courage to take him along to his AA meetings, so they do their best to limit the chimpanzee's drinking. One day the wife tells the ringmaster, "You need to get rid of that chimp. It's making me go crazy." The ringmaster, of course, does not want this, so the wife goes, "Well then, tell me what you will do. I'll be in my room." As the wife is heading to her room, the ringmaster sees the chimpanzee grab a bottle of vodka from the liquor cabinet. He walks towards the chimpanzee while pointing at it and says, "Hey, Put it down. The wife walks in the room with a shotgun and says, "Good idea." Doctor: "All right, listen carefully. Touch it gently. Put 2 fingers inside. If it's wide, use 3. Make sure it's wet and move up and down slowly." The nurse looks shocked and blushes slightly. Nurse: "Doctor, are you sure this is part of the treatment?" Doctor: "It's how to wash a cup properly, but I definitely like the way you think." Johnny was having problems in English class, so his teacher decided to stop by on her way home to speak with his parents. When she rang the bell, Johnny opened the door. The teacher said, "Hello, Johnny. I would like to talk to your mother or your father." Johnny said, "Sorry, but they aren't here." The teacher said, "Johnny, why is your grammar so bad?" "Beats me," said Johnny, "but Dad sure was mad that they had to go and bail her out again." Ah, Valentine's Day. I remember last year. Took her out for a nice meal. We returned home and got into bed. She rolled towards me and whispered in my ear, "It's a very special night. Is there anything you'd like to do to my body?" Apparently, identify it wasn't the correct answer. The couple was delighted when their long wait to adopt a baby came to an end. The adoption center called and told them that there was a wonderful Russian baby boy available. The couple accepted him without hesitation. On the way home from the adoption center, they stopped by the local college so they each could enroll in night courses. After they filled out the forms, the registration clerk inquired, "Why do you want to study Russian?" The couple said proudly, "We just adopted a Russian baby. In a year or so, when he begins to talk, we want to be able to understand him." 2 women on a bus are fighting bitterly over who should get the last available seat. The conductor had already tried to intervene, but all his reasoning had failed. Finally, the driver shouts back to the conductor, "Let the ugly one have it." Both women stood for the rest of the journey. On the first day, God created the dog and said, "Sit all day by the door of your house and bark at anyone who comes in or walks past. For this, I will give you a lifespan of 20 years. The dog said, "That's a long time to be barking. How about only 10 years and I'll give you back the other 10. And God saw it was good. On the second day, God created the monkey and said, "Entertain people, do tricks, and make them laugh. For this, I'll give you a 20-year lifespan." The monkey said, "Monkey tricks for 20 years? That's a pretty long time to perform. How about I give you back 10 like the dog did?" And God again saw it was good. On the third day, God created the cow and said, "You must go into the field with the farmer all day long and suffer under the sun, have calves, and give milk to support the farmer's family. For this, I will give you a lifespan of 60 years. The cow said, "That's kind of a tough life you want me to live for 60 years. How about 20 and I'll give back the other 40? And God agreed it was good. On the fourth day, God created humans and said, "Eat, sleep, play, marry, and enjoy your life. For this, I'll give you 20 years. But the human said, "Only 20 years? Could you possibly give me my 20? The 40 the cow gave back, the 10 the monkey gave back, and the 10 the dog gave back? That makes 80, okay?" "Okay," said God. "You asked for it." So that's why, for our first 20 years, we eat, sleep, play, and enjoy ourselves. For the next 40 years, we slave in the sun to support our family. For the next 10 years, we do monkey tricks to entertain the grandchildren. And for the last 10 years, we've sat on the front porch and barked at everyone. A couple preparing for their wedding meet the man for counseling. He asks if they have any last questions before they leave. The man asks, "We realize it's a tradition for men to dance with men and women to dance with women. But at our wedding reception, we'd like your permission to dance together." "Absolutely not," says the counselor. "It's immoral. Men and women always dance separately. So after the ceremony, I can't even dance with my own wife." "No," answered the counselor. It's forbidden in our religion. Well, okay, says the man. What about sex? Can we finally have sex? Of course, replies the counselor. Sex is okay within marriage to have children. What about different positions? Asks the man. No problem, says the counselor. Woman on top? Sure, says the counselor. Go for it. Woman below? Sure, that's normal. On the kitchen table? Yes, yes. Can we do it with all my 4 wives together on rubber sheets with a bottle of hot oil, a couple of vibrators, leather harnesses, a bucket of honey, a camel, and a goat? You may indeed. Can we do it standing up? No, says the counselor. Why not? Asks the man. It could lead to dancing. Cheers. A young reporter went to a retirement home to interview an aged but legendary explorer. The reporter asked the old man to tell him the most frightening experience he had ever had. The old explorer said, Once I was in the jungles of India. I was on a narrow path and my faithful native gun-bearer was behind me. Suddenly, the largest tiger I have ever seen leaped onto the path in front of us. I turned to get my weapon, only to find the native had fled. The tiger leaped toward me with a mighty roar. I just soiled myself. The reporter said, Under those circumstances, anyone would have done the same. The old explorer said, No, not back then. Just now when I went, roar. A taxi passenger tapped the driver on the shoulder to ask him a question. The driver screamed, lost control of the car, nearly hit a bus, went up on the footpath, and stopped inches from a shop window. For a second, everything went quiet in the cab. Then the driver said, Look, mate, don't ever do that again. You scared the daylights out of me. The passenger apologized and said, I didn't realize that a little tap would scare you so much. The driver replied, Sorry, it's not really your fault. Today is my first day as a taxi driver. I've been driving a hearse for the last 25 years. A very drunk Paddy met up with a prostitute up a dark alleyway. He asks, How much for full sex? 20 pounds, she replies. Okay, says Paddy, and they get down to business. The next minute, a cop appears and shines a torch in their faces. Hello, what's going on here then? He asks. Nothing, officer, just having sex with my wife, says Paddy. Sorry, sir, apologizes the cop. I didn't realize it was your wife. Paddy shouts, Neither did I till you shone your torch in her face. A televangelist, a rabbi, and a Hindu holy man had car trouble in the countryside and asked to spend the night with a farmer. The farmer said, There might be a problem. You see, I only have room for 2 to sleep, so one of you must sleep in the barn. No problem, chimed the rabbi. My people wandered in the desert for 40 years. I am humble enough to sleep in the barn for an evening. With that, he departed to the barn and the others bedded down for the night. Moments later, a knock was heard at the door. The farmer opened the door, and there stood the rabbi from the barn. What's wrong? Asked the farmer. The rabbi replied, I am grateful to you, but I can't sleep in the barn. There is a pig in the barn, and my faith believes that this is an unclean animal. His Hindu friend agrees to swap places with him. But a few minutes later, the same scene reoccurs. There is a knock on the door. What's wrong now? The farmer asks. The Hindu holy man replies, I too am grateful for your helping us out, but there is a cow in the barn, and in my country cows are considered sacred. I can't sleep on holy ground. Well, that leaves only the televangelist to make the change. He grumbled and complained, but went out to the barn. Yep, you guessed it. Moments later, there was another knock on the farmer's door. Frustrated and tired, the farmer opens the door, and there stand the pig and the cow. Dave wanted a job as a signalman on the railways and was really excited when told to meet the inspector at the signal box for an interview. The inspector asks, What would you do if you realized that two trains were heading for each other on the same track? Dave says, I would switch the points for one of the trains. What if the lever broke? Asked the inspector. Then I'd dash down out of the signal box, said Dave, and I'd use the manual lever over there. What if that had been struck by lightning? Then, Dave continues, I'd run back into the signal box and phone the next signal box. What if the phone was engaged? Well, in that case, persevered Dave, I'd run down and use the public phone at the level crossing up there. What if that was vandalized? Oh well, then I'd run into the village and get Trev. This puzzles the inspector, so he asks, why would you do that? Because, says Dave, he's always wanted to see a train crash. A lady is visiting the zoo and she comes to the chimpanzee enclosure. She throws a chimp a peanut and is horrified when it sticks it where the sun doesn't shine and then, removing it, eats it. She throws a few more nuts and it does exactly the same thing. She storms up to the keeper to complain that a chimp with such bad habits shouldn't be allowed in public. The keeper says, Ma'am, that is one very clever chimp, that is. To which she replies, I don't see how you could consider such disgusting behavior. Clever. And the keeper replies, Well, you see, ma'am, a while ago someone threw him a coconut. Patty is watching his first game of golf. The player's first shot lands in the rough, and Patty is quite impressed when he manages to get back onto the fairway. However, the next shot lands in a bunker, but Patty is even more impressed when the player chips out and onto the green. Then, when the player sinks his putt, Patty starts laughing and says, I can't wait to see if he can get the ball out of there. A man is walking slowly along the beach when he notices an unusual glass bottle just at the waterside. He picks it up and opens it. To his amazement, a genie appears. I have been in that bottle for 1,000 years, and as you have released me, I will grant you your greatest wish, says he. Well, says the man, I would really like to go and see my sister in America, but I am terrified of boats and airplanes. Could you build me a motorway? I certainly could, says the genie, but have you thought of the disruption and adverse environmental impact that all of that concrete and steel would have on the ocean? Is there anything else you wish? I am having problems with my marriage. Is there anything you can do to help me understand my wife? Said the man. Do you want a 4 or 6 lane motorway? Says the genie. A terribly overweight blonde woman goes to her doctor about her weight, so her doctor puts her on a diet. I want you to eat vegetables and grains for 2 days, then skip a day and repeat this procedure for 2 weeks, and the next time I see you, you should have lost at least 5 pounds. When the blonde returned, the doctor was shocked to find she had lost nearly 20 pounds. Why, that's amazing. The doctor said, Did you follow my instructions? The blonde nodded and said, I have to tell you, though, I thought I was going to drop dead after the 3rd day. From hunger, you mean? No, from skipping. Joker finds himself in dire trouble. His business has gone bust and he's in serious financial problems. He's so desperate that he decides to ask God for help. God, please help me. I've lost my wee store, and if I don't get some money, I'm going to lose my hoose too. Please let me win the lottery. Lottery night. Someone else wins. Joker prays again. God, please let me win the lottery. I've lost my wee store, my hoose, and I'm going to lose my car as wheel. Lottery night again. Still no luck. Joker prays again. I've lost my business, my hoose, and my car. My bairns are starving. I dinna often ask ye for help, and I have always been a good servant to ye. Please just let me win the lottery this one time so I can get back on my feet. Suddenly there is a blinding flash as the heavens open and the voice of God himself thunders, Joker, at least meet me halfway and buy a ticket. A hunter was rushed into the emergency room with a bear trap clamped onto his testicles. As the horrified doctor was examining him, he said, Man, how did this happen? The hunter explains that he was out in the woods and felt the call of nature. Bending down by a tree, the bear trap was triggered and snapped shut on his testicles. "Oh," exclaims the doctor. "The pain must have been excruciating." "It was," said the hunter. "The second worst pain in my life." "Second worst? What could have been worse than that?" "Coming to the end of the chain," said the hunter.